Hometown Cable loves to celebrate important occasions, and it looks like we have one on our hands here. It's the first day of August 2010. We're in Elizabethtown, New York, to help celebrate the 100th anniversary of Egglefield Ford, Egglefield Brothers Ford. We heard it was going to be a great occasion, and boy, is it a special occasion. Bright sunshine, 70-some degrees, approaching 80 after a morning in the 40s. Cars, old Fords from every era you can imagine. When Egglefield Brothers started this garage back in 1910, I wonder if they dreamed that a century later there would be this many old Fords and modern Fords all gathered together to celebrate 100 years in business. Then he told us they were going to try to get a Ford, at least one Ford from every year. They've been here on this street in E-Town. I'm sure there was a little attrition along the way, but it looks to me like they have many or most of those years represented here today. We're going to talk to Denny, other folks from Egglefield Brothers Ford. We're going to talk to people who brought their cars. I don't know if we'll get a free lunch, but, you know, who said there'd be a free lunch today? Just a beautiful day, the first day of August, as we've had a great summer here in the North Country, and we're thrilled and delighted to be here. And I think this will be one of our best shows ever. Stay with us, folks. This will be a good one. Calvin says we might as well get a little ambiance while we're waiting here. We're in the parking lot at Egglefield Brothers Ford. We're looking for Denny. I can hear him being paged in the background. We'll find him and do an interview. We'll talk to a lot of other people. And meanwhile, every minute we're here, a new Ford from one era or the other pulls into the parking lot or down the street. I would hate to be a Chevy dealer in the area today, would you? Isn't that amazing? Calvin says, I got a Ford so we can park on the grass. So we did. Hi, how are you doing? Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Is this crazy or what?
It's wonderful.
Isn't this the best? How are you?
I'm good.
Are you the world's greatest dad, or is it me?
We'll both of you.
That's what she says. She bought it.
Close enough.
I bought it for him.
I love it. What a great sunshiny day it is here in Elizabethtown at Egglefield Brothers. Denny's around. He's setting up deals for next week, probably trying to sell a few vehicles. We got great old music, rock around the clock. Literally dozens and dozens of Fords from every era. We just saw a beautiful red 1939 Ford sedan come in a few minutes ago. Some of the vehicles we've seen are absolutely original. Some have been restored. We've seen at least two Woodies. We even saw a little Model T that's part of the Westmore Fire Department. Denny!
Doing interviews.
Shorty Little, how are you?
Good, Paul Fruit, how you doing?
Good to see you. Isn't this a great day?
I got to tell you my Mustang story.
Well, I'm ready.
I was always a Chevrolet man. Well, I had a 40 Ford years ago, but I was always a Chevy man. My wife and I are in Connecticut in the Danbury Mall, and they have a raffle of a Ford Mustang convertible. And my wife says, if you're ever going to buy me a new car, that's what I would want. I go to a Ford dealership in Brewster, New York.
I know where that is.
All right. And they delivered it to my house, put it in the garage with a big bow on it. My son comes over, my wife comes home from work, he pushes the button, the garage door swings open, and my wife's first words are, take it back.
Come on. Come on. She got her Mustang.
Oh, she got it. She got it.
Too bad you didn't win the raffle.
I know.
Yeah, that's a great story. Thanks for stopping by. See you later. I don't know what glorified adjectives I can use to choose the excitement here today at Egglefield Brothers in Elizabethtown for their 100th anniversary, but we'll come up with a few before we finish. We just talked with Denny. He says the Ford people are supposed to make some kind of a presentation in his office, and if it's something that can be approved, perhaps we'll go in with the Hometown Cable cameras, Calvin Castine and me, We're out in the parking lot right now. Beautiful, glorious sunshine with Fords everywhere. Look at this Model T from way back when. That was or is part of the Westport Fire Department with a Woody right next to it. There's a lot of great metal here today, Calvin, isn't there? Huh?
Some of that metal survived the World War II when they were having those scrap metal drives.
Oh,
and
yeah.
A lot of what would be ancient cars right now were just recycled into iron for the war cause.
We just talked with Denny a few minutes ago off camera. He was telling me about a friend who was bringing a Ford here today, and he said, I just paid $900 for a new radiator for a car that cost $400 when it was brand new. What's wrong with that story? But I'll have my car there, he says. There were naysayers, he also said, so they didn't expect this many vehicles here today, but it's a great turnout.
It's just ideal weather. It's just going to be, and the weather today is the envy of everybody who has a field day throughout the summer. We can think back to our friends at Point of Fair and the torrential downpour they put up with, and I think this is just beautiful, beautiful weather, perfect day, and here it is. We got here about 11 o'clock, just shortly before 11, and the place is already jam-packed with people, so I think they're going to have an exciting day here.
I don't think Elizabethtown has seen a celebration like this for a little while. Bud Egglefield, third generation here at Egglefield Brothers, was on the PA a few minutes ago inviting people to have a good time today and telling them to come back in 50 years because they're going to do that again. Oh, but...
Well, he mentioned the Mustang, and... if we don't think about it, but what was it, the 63.5 or the 64.5? 64.5, I think it was the first model of the Mustang.
First one, yeah.
And that was my senior year in high school in 1964. So in 2014, it'll be the 50th anniversary of the Mustang, and there are a lot of Mustang clubs around. So I'm sure a lot of Ford dealers will be celebrating the Mustang in just a few years.
That's right. Of course, my first car was a 39 Ford Standard Coupe. And I saw a red one over Calvin's shoulder that we will be looking at another time later today. There are so many vehicles here. I'm not sure how many of them we'll get a chance to see, but it looks like it's going to be a wonderful day anyway.
I told Judy that I'd be here a couple hours and head home. We may be a little late for it.
There's just so much to see.
This is a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. This is great.
We talk about old cars all the time. I was talking with my friend Peter Light, who has several old Ford vehicles, including a 1928 Coupe with a rumble seat completely restored. And we were talking about all the car shows that we've been, including the car shows up in Montreal each year for a while. But this is really, really special. If you're a Ford lover, even if you're a Chevrolet lover, I bet you'd have a good time down here today.
Yeah, I would expect. We've already run into several people already that I know from our neck of the woods that are Ford people. There's a few others I can think of that I haven't run into yet, like George Legnard and John Southwick that we might expect to see here.
I hope John shows up. He and I would have a lot of fun together today.
Yeah. But maybe even our buddies at Riley Ford might come down and join this. Riley Ford's only been in existence since 1926, though, so they're newcomers.
They have a wonderful history, and I remember way back when I started at the radio station doing commercials for them, and the voice of Uncle Clem, your country cousin, selling cars at Riley Ford. We used to have a lot of fun doing that. This is absolutely perfect weather in case those people watching the show, it might be 30 below when you see this, who knows. All of our shows are broadcast on local cable channels, but they're also on the internet at Plattsburgh.com and HometownCableNetwork.com. So if you have an opportunity, watch the new ones, tell your friends about them, watch the old ones. We've done hundreds of these, and Calvin has done thousands. We hope to make them all available around the world on the internet at some point in time. You're still adding new ones, aren't you?
Yeah, sometime when I get back home today, we'll put up number 4400 on the internet.
Is it 4400?
We'll hit number 4400 sometime today.
And you and I have done probably over 600 by now, huh?
Well, 50 times 13 years.
Isn't that
That's
amazing?
65 right there,
Yeah.
650, so yeah.
And we're glad to do it. Most of our shows are roughly an hour and a half or 90 minutes long, some shorter, some a little longer, because sometimes we can't bear to leave once we get started. We're here today hoping to interview some of the family members from Egglefield Brothers, along with a lot of happy people who have cars and are looking at cars. At Egglefield Brothers, celebrating 100 years in business right here in Elizabethtown.
Amazing.
Riley Ford's represented here today.
Absolutely. One
Is
you
your
missed
last
it.
name Van Leeuwen?
Van Leuven.
Van Leeuwen. Joy, how
Yes.
are you?
Great. How are you?
What happened to Honey the minute he was going to be on?
Gone like the
It
wind.
drifted away. This is kind of wild.
It's absolutely fabulous. I mean, to think about the fact that it's 100 years, same family, same facility, I mean, same location. It's amazing. And cars, I'm sure you've walked around. I mean, people just keep coming and coming and coming from all over. I mean, it's amazing. Quite a testimonial to the Egglefield family.
We talked about the Riley Ford family before
Yes.
you got here, Joy. Mentioned that Riley Ford has been around since the 1920s, as I understand it.
Yep, 1926, we were just talking about it. 1926, I believe it was Patno Motors, and then Riley Ford, and then the people my father purchased it from were Marge and Steve Longton and Pete LeBlanc.
Oh my gosh,
So-
I haven't heard those names in a
Well,
very
yeah.
long time.
But,
And what year was that? Do you know?
We're actually celebrating our 30th anniversary this year.
Is that possible?
It is. So they were teasing me, saying, "Are you going to have a 100-year anniversary?" I said, "Sure, I won't be here to plan it, but I can start planning now."
You know, I was telling Calvin and our viewers a few minutes ago before you arrived about some of the earliest commercials I did on the radio, being by some guy named Clem, your country cousin, with that country accent. With the old, I wish I had some of those old commercials.
That was it was my dad and my Uncle Gerald, I believe, correct?
Was it really?
I believe,
I'm
yeah.
sure it was. It's a lot of water over the dam since that time, I'll tell you that.
Definitely.
But it's good to be in business for a long time, and when you can celebrate 100 years, we don't begrudge these guys 1 minute of the fun they're having today.
No.
I knew, Denny said he knew it was going to be a big deal. Somebody said you'll never get any cars. But I think this has got to be bigger than he even expected.
Oh, I mean, it is. I mean, seriously, people from all over. I mean, we were just looking at a car that my husband said to me, he goes, that car is worth like, $250,000. I'm like, oh my, I mean, unbelievable. I mean, and people are just excited to be here. This is huge.
It's so glad. I just got back from 2 weeks of camping on the St. Lawrence, and Calvin sent me a little email and said, how'd you like to go down to E-Town tomorrow? And I said, yes.
Yeah.
I heard there are going to be this many Ford cars here. I've seen unique stuff here today that I haven't seen in a long, long time.
Well, there's an old lumber truck here, and we were just in Detroit and went to the Henry Ford Museum.
Oh, you did?
We
Lucky
did.
people.
Oh, so I mean, we just saw a lot of the old stuff. That truck is as nice as the one that just came out of that we just saw at the Henry Ford Museum. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Blessings on all the people who buy old vehicles and restore them beautifully.
Yeah, a lot of
There are
work.
some here that are very, very old and haven't been touched.
I know.
Look like they just got driven out of the hay barn.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
It is. It's awesome. And we have an older Mustang. My husband and myself and I, a 1985 Mustang GT. It's nice. It's fun.
Joy, I didn't mean to put you on the spot,
That's
but
okay.
we spotted you and Honey when you came in. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
You too. Have a
Say
great
hi
day.
to everybody
I
for us
will.
back home. See
Thank
you later, Joy.
Thanks.
Once again.
If you've ever been at a wedding reception, when the photographer tries to get the entire wedding party together at the reception, you get a little idea of what they're going through right now. They're trying to gather all the Egglefields and their families that are here today and get a big group photo. I'm sure every wedding photographer is sympathizing with this guy right now, Gordy.
I think there might be more Egglefields than there are the rest of the audience here. I don't know how many. We know there's at least 3 generations, but I bet you there's 4 or 5 represented here today. Isn't that wonderful? We can't let Bud get away because he promised to talk with us a few minutes, so we'll... Oh, they're just moving closer to more cameras, that's all. A lot of cameras flashing here today. Just met some people who are Scottish folks whose kids grew up with ours playing hockey, and they live in North Carolina, and they stopped by to say hello. I hadn't seen them in perhaps 20, 25 years. It was great to see them. They have a camp on Chazy Lake. Listen to the great old music they're playing here today. You talk about a party. They're doing it upright for the 100th anniversary of Egglefield Brothers here in Elizabethtown, New York.
I know. Make it good. You can't get back up here. Make it one time.
They're still coming.
They're still coming from the hinterland. I think they're saying cheese and a lot of other things there behind those smiles.
Egglefield.
Egglefield Brothers. Started here in Elizabethtown in 1910. Grown into a couple of dealerships, huh, now?
Yeah, High Peaks, Ford. Of course, Ford, 1903, I think, were the first dealerships when Henry Ford started selling them.
It's amazing. And Dr. John Southwick with his Woody. We'll have to find John, because he did show up here today, and that's great.
His Woody is right here next to that fire truck.
It's beautiful.
That's stepping the kids.
Oh, no, I won't step on right now, but we got dogs here, we got people, we got little kids, big kids, great grandmas and grandpas, and little babies. And
oh, so many cars.
And boy, so many beautiful Fords all in one place. This might be, you know, come to think of it, you and I have been to a lot of classic car shows. I don't think we've ever seen this many Fords all together in one place.
Certainly not this many Fords, and never this many people at a car show. No. This is outstanding. The family must be extremely proud in how this has turned out.
You know, it's a tribute to the family, a tribute to the dealership. As somebody said to me a few minutes ago, Calvin, how many businesses do you know have survived? You know, ups and downs, survived the Great Depression in the 1920s into the 30s.
World War II.
World War II,
and World War II must have been hard to stay in business when they weren't making any more new cars.
Or tires, or tubes, and gasoline was rationed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So to survive and be still thriving in 2010 is a great tribute to this family and to the people who worked for them all these years. It's a great day.
I've been driving Ford since 1966, when Joy Van Leuven's uncle, Morris Buster Roberts, took me down to Rao Brothers in Ellenburg and
oh, no kidding.
Bought a 66 Ford Fairlane. And
don't you wish you had it?
Yeah. And of course, we drove down here in a Riley Ford, so you know I've been driving Fords ever since. And Ron Roberts running that now, and his brother Gerald was there helping him until his death a few years back. And you know the Roberts family has done a nice job there in Chazy.
Nice people, boy, don't you love it? 1957 license plate on the front, IX 1957. There you go. Now we're going back to orange license plates. We finally cornered him right in front of Dr. John Southwick's Woody. Bud, how you doing, Bud?
Gordy, if it's any better, it'd be a sin.
Isn't this amazing?
It certainly is. I never saw so many people in E-Town on a Sunday. The Catholic Church would probably turn over in his grave.
I'm surprised that they're not holding a mass right here in the parking lot.
I hope they don't have to.
Well, somebody, I heard you say on the microphone, thank the good Lord for giving us weather.
Absolutely.
Look at this day, Bud.
We were going to thank Father Riani, and he says, I'm in sales, not management.
I love it.
So that's where he ended up. It was a gorgeous day.
Tell me, you're third generation.
I'm third.
We just saw a photograph there with a lot of little ones. So are there 5 generations?
There are 5 now, and there are more little ones coming along.
Are they?
Yeah.
They don't know how to stop it, huh?
Spencer and I were third. Dennis is all by himself in 4th. And then his 2 sons are working here now. One runs a shop over in Raybrook. And then they've got younger children also. So this looks like we're going to have a 150-year reunion in the making.
Yeah, I heard you.
It's going to work out good.
I heard everybody saying, come on back in 50 years.
Yeah, that's
you and I will be ghosts if we do.
Yeah, I'll have my picture on the old bit side of that table.
You know, Calvin and I were just saying a few minutes ago, Bud, how does a business like this survive through the First World War, the Great Depression, the Second World War, and all the crap we know that's happened since that time? How do you stand?
I had a parts manager that asked the same question. He was with me for about 13 years. He says, Bud, how do you guys have been losing money every year? How do you keep going? I said, Ray, my grandfather started this business with $5 million. It's taken us 75 years to get rid of it.
Isn't that beautiful? Well, you're not showing any signs of weakening.
Well, I hope not.
There are cars here from, I dare say, maybe 100 miles away. Some of these.
Oh yeah, we've got Vermonters and everything. They came in on trailers also. We got trailer people to trail them in because they couldn't make it, normally. They didn't dare drive them that far.
Somebody's been planning this for how long? 100 years?
Well, probably 2 years. Has been a pretty good run on it. Dennis has done a lot of work, and his crew have done a lot of work. And they've been the body shop. We've been throwing the customers' cars out the door to work on his own to make sure he's got enough display work to start this thing.
Calvin and I wondered driving up here, how many old cars does the family own?
Well, I don't own any. I sold my last car to a guy in Florida, a 55 Thunderbird, but Dennis has got probably 20.
Does he really?
Oh, yeah.
Of his own?
Of his own.
Oh, isn't that great?
And he lost about 8 or 10 of them in that fire he had at his house 2 years ago.
No,
It wiped about everything he had.
Completely forgot that until just now. Oh, that must have.
I think he had 10 cars in there that had been restored. Beautiful cars.
Oh my.
So he's working his way back.
I can't believe you guys should have stretched this out to at least 2 days.
Well, we didn't want to tie up the town forever. They would have arrested us.
I think it's wonderful. Calvin and I drove into town and I said, where is it? I said, it's right there. Look at the people.
Yeah. Well, we got a guy from Detroit here who was in charge of allocation for Ford, and he said, I came around the corner. He says, I've been to a lot of car shows. He said, but I've never seen anything like this before.
You know, that's something else Calvin and I mentioned. We've been to a lot of classic car shows in cities and around in the small towns here in northern New York, and I don't think we've ever seen as big a collection of Fords as you guys have here today.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And also, Tycon Roga's having their antique car rally today too.
Oh, it is really?
Against us.
Oh, not a chance.
We'd had another 40 of them here.
Isn't that it? So how long are you going to hang in there here?
I make the coffee and talk to my customers every morning.
That's not a bad thing.
We're going to need you because the 4 people have to leave, so they're going to do the 100-year presentation.
You just made international television with that statement.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
How are you?
They're waiting for you inside.
Yeah. I know. We got to grab Bud.
Okay.
I'm grabbing you.
Gordy, I'll see you later.
Thanks we'll catch you in a second. We're
Good luck to everybody.
Major Ford presentation right now.
See you later, guys.
We need the oldest Egglefield.
Go and do it.
I'm the oldest living there.
Please, we have a presentation going to go on here, and I'm going to turn this over to the
Frederick Tony. Thank you. What's your name?
Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry. Boy, isn't this a great day? Yeah. It's a great day. This is a beautiful day. Somebody must be living right.
We all are.
So everybody here is living right. That's why it's such a beautiful day. You know, this is the first time I've ever had an opportunity to come to this part of the United States. It is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I don't think I could have picked a better time to come. We're coming, I came out here today to help celebrate one of the oldest Ford dealerships in the world. In fact, it's the 8th oldest dealership in the United States. Isn't that something? Now, I know from a pretty good source that there are 6 generations of Egglefields. Did I say that right?
Hanging in.
That are here today. Not here today. I guess that would be kind of hard. But you know, the last 3 or 4, last 3?
Got at least three of us.
Let's count, bud. 3 times.
3 times.
3, 4, and 5.
3, 4, and 5. I think that's kind of important, don't you think? Yeah. So let's give a round of applause for that too. Now, before we just focus a little bit on the 100 years, I just want to say I had a chance to come out last night and have dinner with the family, and I had a really nice time. And if everybody like these folks are, you guys are pretty nice people. And just from talking to Dennis, I kind of understand why they've been around for 100 years. It's because just talking with him last night, the passion he has, but you know what he really has? He loves you guys. This guy loves this town. He loves the people who does business with him. And I tell you what, as long as he does that, as long as he loves you and his family loves you, then we're going to have a chance to have a company that continues to last. And what I like about it so much is it represents what Ford is all about. And you know, dealers like this is what's the heart of Ford. You guys are the face of Ford here. And I know that he donates to Little League and any kind of sports things that you have going on, because that's what our Ford dealers do. And I just want to thank all of you for taking time out to come out and help celebrate. Now, I came all the way from Dearborn, Michigan. And it's the first event of this sort. So I don't know if the rest of them can match up to 100 years, but I'm really having a great time. And so, just a little bit of business. I think I guess emblematic or representing the type of dealership that we have here is the fact that it's one of the best dealerships we have in the country as well. In fact, the first thing I want to do is pass out an award for, may I have it please? That way I don't mess it up. This is in recognition of outstanding customer satisfaction through progressive management, dedicated employees, and high standards of operating excellence. It's the President's Award. So please join me in handing this over to Dennis. Now, Dennis has got me a little help with his hardware, okay? Somebody's going to take a picture right here.
You get in there. Get in there. Come on. Get in there.
Yep.
Corey? Ken? Come on, guys.
I don't know about adding these good-looking guys to the picture.
That's what. All guys on this side. There you go.
Old guys in the back.
We do have eyes.
Did everybody get one? We don't mind. It's okay. Okay.
What's up, Rita?
Oh. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Really, truly. Now, you guys can tell I'm kind of milking the moment, can't you? Anyway, I'm enjoying this. The next award that I want to pass out is in recognition of the 100 years from 1910 to 2010. Wow, that's amazing. So, may I have it, please? Thank you. And so just hold it for a second. She wants to get in the picture too. You can tell. So, this says Egglefield Brothers Incorporated 100-year anniversary from 1910 to 2010, and I believe this is Henry and Edsel and who? And the Deuce. So Henry II, and Edsel. So.
Who I was named after.
This is are your name after?
My middle was Edsel.
All right.
They named a car after me a few years later.
Now we know why you guys lasted 100 years.
Love you, Bob.
You guys want to get this picture too? No, you okay?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Move up a little bit there.
Okay.
Jerry, where are you? Dad, look this way once. Okay, we'll get Sharon and action.
Take as many pictures as you like.
Make it turn this
Yeah,
way.
you know how like the flash bulbs that go off when we're waiting for A-Rod's 600th home run.
Yeah, it's amazing. People sitting 500 feet away think that little flash is going to help take a better picture.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
I always mention they're the flash bulbs. We haven't seen flash bulbs for a long, long time. It is a momentous occasion. It's a beautiful day for a temperature very close to 80 degrees.
Congratulations.
Beautiful skies.
Congratulations, guys.
Way to go!
There's still another one.
Yeah, one more. I like that one. I like that one.
Okay. We're almost finished here. This next presentation is something I want to give you a little background on. This is a print signed by Essex Ford, whatever he is, Essex Ford the second or third? Our current Essex Ford, right? This is a print of what we call the race that changed everything. In 1901, Henry Ford won this race, and he won about $1,000. And that gave him the stake to start Ford Motor Company. So when we had the 100-year anniversary of Ford Motor Company, we commissioned a few prints. So this is one of a few prints that we have. And so Essex Ford signed this, and we brought it all this way to present it to the Egglefields. So congratulations.
Is that Barney Oldfield driving that car? Do you remember that name?
Yeah, I remember that name, but I think he said Henry Ford drove it.
I don't know.
Dad.
It's pretty great picture anyway.
They're going to have to put up a new wall or something.
Yeah. Can't wait to see what they get 50 years down the road.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, one more.
One more?
Yeah, one more. One more.
We got one more award, yeah.
One more. This is, he's already married.
And he's got it.
Doesn't it look?
Well, so this is something that Denny, I think you'll wear with pride always. So it's a commemorative pin. It says Ford 100, and it's got 4 nice, beautiful diamonds, ladies. So Denny, just wear with pride. But thank you for all you do for us.
Thank you very much, Enzo.
Yeah, absolutely.
That requires another picture, okay? One more.
Anything for a picture, right?
Gotta show it.
We'll get one going out of 200.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
So, and just in closing, I just wanted to just reaffirm our appreciation for all that you all do, Denny and the family. And that is, we want to congratulate the entire Egglefield extended family, because we know what it takes to make a business successful. And we also want to thank you, customers, for patronizing them, because you guys are what we're all about at Ford Motor Company. And we couldn't have a better representative than Egglefield Ford. So thanks again, Dennis.
Woo!
Thank you all.
Oh, you guys say a couple words
We
now.
have Teresa
No
too.
pressure.
We should do everything.
Right.
You're not done yet. You have Teresa too. Before you speak. Before you speak, you have Teresa too. Let her do hers.
Yes, sir.
5th generation. Take it over.
Hold on just a minute. We have a little difficulty amongst the ranks here. We have an administration problem.
Our administration problem is tough over here.
Teresa Sayward, New York State Assemblywoman.
All right.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for letting me do this, Denny. I'm not standing here today as the Assemblywoman. I'm your neighbor. I live just down the road in Willsboro, and I stand here as a customer of Egglefield. And I have to tell you that I drive thousands of miles in any given month. And the reason I can stay on the road and do my job is because of Egglefield Brothers.
Did you ever think about doing an advertisement for us?
They not only sell me the cars, but it's the service that they give here to keep people coming back. And that's why they've been here for 100 years. They'll be here for as long as they want to be and their family wants to be. Being a woman, you all know you don't want to have to worry about changing your oil or doing anything else. I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about worrying when my car needs inspection. because Denny worries about it. And that's what makes this place so great. To now put my other hat on, and I thought it deserved recognition in the state archives, and I brought a resolution from the New York State Assembly honoring the Egglefields on their 100th birthday, and I brought 2 of them so one could go to Lake Placid and one could stay here. And I just simply want to say thank you, Egglefield.
I guess it's just thank you, everybody. We're here for one reason. It's our people. It's you people. It's family. It's families that continue to do business here. Again, all I want to say is thank you. And we'll see you for the next 100.
A little bit of history right there, Calvin. Huh?
Yeah. I'd like to just say one more thing. I want to thank Frederick for coming from Dearborn. We have Enza who came up. She's our regional manager from Boston. Sherry Konecki, who is our rep. She works with us every day. She's up here from Melbourne, Florida. Yeah. We have our 20 group here. There's a lot of Ford dealers here. Don't talk to those people. However, real good folks. They all came up to give us a hand this weekend. But that's the kind of a family it is. And we're family. We're all family. And again, I just appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. Where's John? John is also, he's got to drive back to Detroit tonight.
He's not even supposed to be here.
He's not supposed to be here. We've now told on it. John, we appreciate you coming. My pleasure. A good friend. And have a safe trip back to Detroit, please. Will do. Thank you very much.
Special moments here at Egglefield Brothers.
Okay, everybody ready for a party? Yeah! Let's go. Everybody.
Or we could dance. Denny Egglefield, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great, doing great.
That ceremony was very, very impressive.
Just great that all these folks could make it from all over the north. Well, actually all over the East Coast.
All over the country. I can't believe who's making cars in Detroit. They're all here. That was very, very nice.
No, it was a great deal. I'm glad they all got here.
You know, most people come to a celebration like this and go home and think you've dreamed it up last night. I know you've been working on it for at least 2 years, maybe longer.
Actually, a guy by the name of Pete McCaffey started this about 3 years ago, Gordy.
Really?
And we were trying to put together one car from every year of our 100 years. And we didn't, I don't think we quite made it, but we've got a lot of them.
I have never seen so many classic Fords in one spot. Calvin and I have been to car shows all over the country, and that's worth the whole day right there.
Yeah, we had some guys that got out like Model Ts. Those have been in storage for 25 years, and some of those guys got this stuff out just for this event. Some old friends, some people we used to travel with, and it was great of all of them too. Had great participation.
I told your story about the $400 radiator too.
Thank you.
But you know, it's really fantastic to have this many people, all these cars gathered in one place. And Bud told me you got about 20 yourself.
I've still got about 20. I had a big fire in 04.
A couple years ago. How many burned up?
We lost about 11 in that one.
Oh my God! I cried for days, and I know you did too.
Yeah. But
they become members of your family, the old cars.
They sure do, especially after the number. None of us in the old car hobby, very few of us get rid of anything.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, well.
Most of them are older than my kids. But
our priest did a homily this morning about hoarding and how much stuff we keep around because we can't bear to get rid of our stuff.
But it's still fun.
It is fun. So how many years do you think we do have represented here today? Maybe 50 of the years?
Oh, no. We've got a lot better than that, I believe.
Even better than 50?
Yes. I believe we made probably within 15, 18 cars of all 100 years.
Come on.
No kidding.
How does one go about doing that?
Well,
just calling people?
I think we called a lot of favors in over this one.
Well, we've given a lot of
We had some problem. We've lost a couple of the guys. This started about 3 years ago. and to put this together.
A little attrition along the way.
A little attrition along the way, which we kind of had to try to overcome here at the end, and I think we pretty well did it. We were very light on Model Ts, and then all of a sudden, as you can see, I got a hold of a few guys, and we pulled some out of the woodwork.
Those are the first ones I saw when I was coming in. Then I saw the Woodies, and I know them, and Dr. John Southwick's a dear friend of ours.
Right.
We've been to a lot of auto shows together. He and I commiserated about the first cars we owned.
And he's a great guy. He's always been in the hobby as well, too.
That's a great... Yeah. So, how did you promote this? Aside from inviting Calvin and me here today.
We did a lot of advertising about it because I wanted to get people here. Like I said, this is for the people. It really is. As you can see, there's no new cars out here or anything. We did this to get these people, get these cars, get everything back out here and just look at it one more time. And it's a real passion for me. It's not baloney. I mean it. I love cars. Everybody says, what do you do for hobbies? I said, work on cars. I mean, it just doesn't change, but we love what we do, and this is a great showing of what we do.
To think about what it was like when the old guys opened that first dealership in 1910. I'm sure they could never envision what it would be like 100 years later.
When you realize that there wasn't even any roads, say nothing about cars. So, yeah, that was. I don't know how anybody would ever envision what the automobile business is done.
When the Ford representative came up here today and grabbed that microphone and said you were in a pretty elite top 10 in the world and number 8 in the United States, I think he said, as oldest. That's pretty darn good.
And I feel it some days, every bit of it. But it's worth it.
Maybe by tonight you will. Yeah. We tried to get Denny over to the microphone a half an hour ago, and every 2 steps somebody was there with a handshake or a hug. But you know how many friends you've got, don't you?
I'll tell you what,
this all your life,
it really makes you feel that way too. I'm just so thankful for the turnout we had here today. It was great.
Did you ever think of making it 2 days instead of 1?
We actually thought about it, but if you look around, I don't know how we'd keep that all together.
It's everywhere you look, there are cars parked way up the street and down the street. There was no question there was a shindig going on when Calvin and I came into town about 10 minutes to 11 this morning.
Well, we decided we'd have a little show today anyhow.
I don't know if any of the major media were here today, but I hope they cover this so we can see it on regular television, newspapers, and hear it on the radio. But this hometown cable with Calvin Castine and myself, and this our little corner segment will be on the internet by tonight or tomorrow morning, so your friends all around the world can see this. And Calvin normally sends the link out as soon as it's done to people, so you can send it, put it on your website, whatever you want to, and people can see it.
So you guys know you do a great job.
Well,
as you know, Rudy Misek's truck is out there. You did the segment with the Miseks.
Oh my!
You've done a lot of great stories.
It doesn't get any better than the old sawmill, the old Misek show in the sawmill with Bob Venn before I even took over this.
That was a great show. I've watched that 2 or 3 times.
They're a wonderful family.
Yes, they are.
That truck is a classic. We saw pictures of it when it was a junk heap, and the first time he got it restored. And I think Calvin saw it in the parade, didn't you? In Morris Forks the first time.
You know what you ought to do, Gordy? Someday you ought to get Calvin on the other side of the camera, though.
We tried to do that.
He always is one-eyed. Do you notice that looking through that camera?
I thought that was my nickname was One Eye. But
he's here on a Sunday again. Calvin, we appreciate you too.
Yeah, both of us are normally home with our feet up on something on a Sunday afternoon.
I'm glad you guys came
Once
down.
we got here this morning and saw what you had stirred up here like the witch's cauldron, we wouldn't have missed this for the world.
I'm glad you came. I'm glad you came.
How many people of your employees have been with you a long time, like more than 10 years?
Quite a few over 10. I should have counted that today so I could answer that question.
No, it's not a big deal.
I've got a few people over 25 years.
Come on.
Yeah. It used to be, we kind of laughed about it at one time. Virtually if you came to work here, you had to die here. But it's not necessarily that way anymore, but we hang together as long as we can.
It used to be that way. When you got a job, no matter what it was, you planned, if it was a good job, you planned to stay in it until you retired or died.
Exactly.
Nowadays, it's different. Everybody has 4 or 5 careers.
But we still try to keep it that way. Our people are good folks. You can see here, we couldn't have done this without everybody being involved. they do a heck of a job every day, and that's what this is all about.
You gave all your friends a lot of credit when you had the microphone there, and it's important that you do that because these North Country communities are unique in so many ways.
They sure are.
And they stick together in good times and bad, don't they?
Yes, they do. And again, it's so, we've been through this many times. It's not about cars here, it's about people. And it's always been about people.
That was not a bad testimonial from Teresa Sayward.
Teresa's a great lady.
She is
known
a
her
sweetie.
Most of my life.
She's great.
She's been a good friend all the way along.
You've been a good representative for the North Country in this segment of the North Country.
She's done a super job.
Yes. History. We need a little bit of more history. It was Wilbur B. that started it.
Wilbur B. started this back in 1909, late 1990. He bought 3 Model Ts.
Come on.
And they brought them home and they sold those, and that's kind of the start of this. And then all of a sudden, you know, you get orders for more. His father, George Washington Egglefield.
No, George Washington Egglefield.
They actually.
He's really taking us back to the beginning.
The old Tahaz house, which is now the Ausable Club. He rebuilt that, and he built the first house, so it goes in Lake Placid. So we were carpenters before we were car people.
Isn't that amazing? So it's been going on for a long time. Calvin and I have talked to Bud and other people. You wonder how any business, never mind a car dealership, can survive. We talked about the First World War, the Great Depression, the Second World War, and all the stuff that's happened since then. How do you stay on your feet? There had to be some lean times.
There's always some lean times, but it's still, it's what you make it. You know, we go through it. If you take 5 generations of Egglefield in the last 100 years, it means we go through a set about every 20 years. But again, the first set of Egglefield brothers was right after World War I. The second set of Egglefield brothers was right after World War II. And then I had sisters rather than brothers. I kind of hit it alone here for a while. Now I've got 2 sons pretty interested. My son Corey runs a place up in Lake Placid. My son Kent works here with us.
Let's mention the other dealership, Talk about Lake Placid.
Yeah, we bought that back in 2003. It's a secondary point for Egglefield Brothers. Just looked like a great, we always did a lot of service work up there anyhow. It just looked like a great place, and that's how we started it. I just told my son, do the best you can with the service, the sales will follow. And it's done just that.
You know, that's exactly what happens. Now we got little babies. They're learning how to do that, so we're going to have more generations before we're finished.
We've got a couple of little motorheads that'll be in there, I'm going to guarantee. I'll guarantee it.
Do you do a lot of the work on your old cars yourself, Ben?
I used to do a lot of the work on my old cars. I broke a back about 12 years ago.
Oh, God.
Had a couple of heart attacks. So I'm not doing an awful lot of it. I still peck away at it on Sundays, but can't do what I used to do. Lifting stuff and so forth. But we still work at it.
Anybody that's got an old Ford that either runs or is available to put on a flatbed is here today. I bet you there are still some more in the garages and barns around the North Country that you might discover in the future.
We still know of a few more.
Oh, you do? Kenny, thanks so much for inviting us here today.
Thank you so much for coming.
We're going to roam around and look at cars.
Have a good time.
You're the boss, buddy. See you later. It's even longer than I remember, isn't it? That is the picture on the front of today's program. Wilbur B. Egglefield, you see it, 1858 to 1925. On the inside of the program it says, a quote from Henry Ford himself, one of the greatest discoveries a man makes, one of his great surprises is to find he can do what he was afraid he couldn't do. Excuse me, and Henry Ford was a guy who lived up to that maxim for sure. There are a lot of Model A's here today because they were just such a classic, the Model T and then the Model A. This is the 1931 Model A Ford. Bob Karcher, who was here to celebrate the 100th anniversary at Egglefield Brothers. We got a 1930 Model A. Looks like William Leach right next to it. Some of these are absolutely original. Some have been touched up just a little bit. Some of them have original interior and paint on the outside. But they're all pretty nice, Calvin.
Yeah, we talked to Billy Leach's son at the Great Brothers Center there when the North Country Chamber of Commerce had their car show, and Billy had that old unfinished one. But I saw this one last week in Chazy. He's got finished, he's got unfinished.
Isn't that wonderful? We love to see the original ones, as I said, that look like they just came out from under the haymow. Okay, we got several. It says the Road to 100, the first generation, when Wilbur Egglefield bought 3 new Fords and opened for business, as we mentioned talking with Denny earlier. In 1913, a new Egglefield Ford garage was built in New Russia. We've mentioned that before today. And in 1915, if you can believe this, so early in automotive history, the 1 millionth Ford Model T was built. You can understand why. It was the car for every man. Now take a look at this 1940 Ford Coupe. Work in progress, it says. Tom Calkins of Plattsburgh owns it. Not at all dissimilar from the 1939 Standard that I built for the first car I ever owned, the first hot rod I ever built, 1939 Standard Coupe. We're looking at these cars as we walk down the line. The second generation came in 1920 when Spencer and Harrison Egglefield established the Egglefield Brothers business. In 1920, the first E-Town facility was opened. It was 7 years later that the Model T was replaced by the Model A. We've talked about the Model A and friends who have owned Model A's. We've seen a number of them here today. In 1929, the Egglefields stayed in business by bartending their way through the Great Depression, which Denny didn't tell us today.
I think he says bartering there, not bartending.
Oh, was it bartering? Oh, I thought it was bartending. I thought maybe they did a little on the side when they couldn't sell. They bartered their way. Okay, that's the great Gordy little faux pas of the day. They bartered their way. Okay, then we came. I love it. Then they came to the third generation, and after the war, 1947, Spencer Egglefield Jr. joined the Egglefield Brothers. Get over here, John.
I'm just going to say,
you can walk in front of our camera any darn time you want to. What do you think so far?
Great turnout.
Isn't it great?
A lot of some beautiful cars. You know, Joanne says I can look at anything, a rust bucket, and see gold and chrome, shiny chrome. But hey,
you broke her. Yeah,
no,
you can.
No, she can't. I was wondering if he had a tour of his museum over there. He's got a lot of cars. Denny Egglefield.
He's got about 20. He lost.
You've seen him? Yeah, he lost a bunch.
He lost 11 in the fire.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what that would do to a person who's worked on cars all their life?
Yeah.
Oh, that little breeze feels so good coming through here today.
Yeah.
Can you feel it on the camera? I know you love old cars because you and I have been to some of these car shows in the past, John.
Yeah.
You brought your wonderful Woody up here today.
Yes, and that came from Reber.
It did come originally.
It was bought new in Reber, Willsboro area, and that car, I bought the car from a fellow named Alton Risley, and Alton drove it new. He was the first one to drive. Didn't own it. He bought it from the estate later, and I bought it from him in 1975.
So you've had it a while then.
And the original family member, came by and said, you know, brings back tears. We used to go here, there, and everywhere with that car.
Isn't that beautiful?
He works for Ford Motor Company and kind of would like to make a deal, but, you know, these things are like children.
Oh, they are. Absolutely. You got to keep them. How many do you have now, John?
Oh, gee. Good, bad, otherwise.
Parts,
12 that are good, and another, 20 or so that are
not as good.
Not as good.
Well, you know what, John? It's always great to have you here today.
Well,
you can stay for 2 or 3 days if you want to.
Oh, I will, but I can't.
Oh, okay.
I would. I say I would, but I can't.
I like your hat. I like her straw hat, too.
Yeah.
I think you ought to change hats to go home.
Nodding. Time to go home.
Oh, yeah, time to go home.
It says I talk too much. Okay.
I love it. See you later, kids. Of course, you could have it in any color black you wanted when you bought this 1925 Ford Model T. Todd Cornwright's vehicle. I'm not sure the plastic cans that say oil and water on them had been invented by then. They were probably tin tin cans by then, and we have a few of those old gas cans around our garage. But this is a nice vehicle that the interior looks like it might be pretty much original. Pretty much original. Not too much restoration here, and that's what you appreciate. It might have been painted a couple of times down through the years, and maybe a new top on it, but what a great vehicle with the open Phaeton, huh?
Yeah.
I remember these from the old Laurel and Hardy movies from way back in the 1920s. They were great. What a great vehicle.
And you don't see a lot of Model Ts at car shows anymore.
No, you don't. You see the Model A's, now people are buying them and restoring them, but the T's are the classic ones from the old Keystone Cops.
Somebody mentioned Ma and Pa Kettle today.
Ma and Pa Kettle, all those great old shows where you remember the cars. Ma and Pa Kettle with the things hanging off the sides and kids and suitcases on the top. And wood spoke wheels, folks, if you can imagine what that was like. And they did deteriorate even though they were made out of hard wood. These are probably originals, maybe painted over once, but originals right here on this Model T.
And you got to figure the roads these were traveling on too.
Oh, are you kidding me? A lot of ruts in the villages and in the country and down through the fields, that's for sure.
50-50 ticket.
You know, the boys were kind enough to print up the Road to 100, the various generations, changes in this family business and in Ford Motor Company business since the early days when Egglefield Brothers first came into existence 100 years ago. So I think I mentioned 1947, when that's the third generation, when Spencer Egglefield Jr. joined Egglefield Brothers. In 1948, the Ford F-100 was introduced, and who can forget the F-100? 1953, Egglefield Brothers became a corporation. That's a milestone. 1954, Lou Bud Egglefield joined Egglefield Brothers when I was just 17 years of age. How about that? 1954, the all-new Ford Thunderbird hits the market. We have seen some Jim Dandies on the streets and in this parking lot here today for the 100th anniversary celebration. 1960, the Ford Falcon Compact is created to combat rising fuel costs. In 1961, when I started my interesting, sometimes colorful radio career, my first child was born in Huntington, Long Island Hospital. I borrowed my brother's Ford Falcon and made a trip to Long Island and back in time to sign radio station WEAV on the air the next morning, 15 minutes late. And that was when I was almost fired the first time, radio business. Yes, we did make a speedy trip with that little Ford Falcon. 1964, the Ford Mustang debuted, creating a pony car segment at 64.5, which Calvin has mentioned already today. 1971, a devastating fire destroyed the Egglefield facility in Elizabethtown. That's a fire we haven't mentioned yet today. We talked about Denny's fire. And then you come into the fourth generation, if you can believe that. 1973. The grand opening of the new Egglefield Brothers facility, the one you see right here today, which we've stood in front of and walked inside many times. 1973, Dennis Egglefield joined the Egglefield Brothers team. He'll never admit that he's that old. He may show his age by nightfall tonight after all of this, I'll tell you that. He's done a magnificent job. 1985, the introduction of the Ford Taurus, redefining the shape of the modern automobile. I think Calvin may have owned a few Tauruses along the way, about a half a dozen along the way, and I've ridden in just about all of them. And in 1991, the all-new Explorer reinvented the modern SUV segment. And then we come into the fifth generation. 1999, Kent Egglefield joined Egglefield Brothers Ford. A few years later, in 2003, Corey Egglefield joined Egglefield Brothers Ford. 2003 also, High Peaks Ford opened under the corporate banner. We've talked about that today in Lake Placid. And then into the sixth generation, Are you ready for this? 2004 to 2010, 6 new Egglefield children are born. And it says at the end of that, who's on deck? 2010. That's where we are now, folks, on the first day of August on a beautiful sunshiny summer day. Egglefield Brothers Ford turns 100. This celebration will continue, I'm sure, until there's an afterglow sometime later tonight. And what a great fun it is. We haven't mentioned the Mercury Cougar, and Calvin is standing right in front of one as we mention it now. And this goes back a few years. It doesn't seem that long ago for me, but that's 1968, and this one is a real beauty. So many beautiful cars. We'll just walk and talk them as we go. There's a 1930 Ford Model A. Jeff, it looks like Jeff Pedu, or Pedu, P-E-D-U, from Lake Placid. There are a lot of Model A's, as Calvin said, and not as many Model T's. Some of them are beautifully restored. Pickup trucks. Down at the other end of Calvin's right is a 34 Ford. We think of those as the Bonnie and Clyde car. For those of you who are familiar with the Bonnie and Clyde 4-door, I think that one is a 2-door. A 34 with suicide doors on the front when they were 4 doors. Beautiful vehicle. It's it turned into a hot rod.
We'll get there.
Here's a 1930 Ford Model A. Look at that. I'm sure that color wasn't original.
No, it makes you want to go home and watch American Graffiti.
Oh, look at this one. New York 1923 commercial. And that wood is original. Take a look at the wood, Calvin. Pretty sure that's just the way it was. Maybe sanded down just a little bit. Somebody put some red paint on it, but you have to watch out when you're cranking it. You could really get a sore arm.
Look at the lanterns.
The lanterns on there. Isn't that cool? In case your 6-volt power system went to hell in a handbasket. The old running boards are still intact. Boy, I'll tell you, that's in very, very nice shape. You had one Mustang?
I had a Mustang 2.
Oh, you did have a Mustang 2.
Not a Mustang, but a Mustang 2.
Yeah.
Then I got married.
Yeah, that's can tend to put a damper on things when you have a family to support. This is a 32 Ford sedan, a couple of years older than the one I had, but beautiful, absolutely beautiful shape. Rudy's truck is here. And it's, boy, it's wonderful. Sure fine. It's a far cry from the way it looked when you first saw it when you went up there with Bob, isn't it?
Yep, that's Rudy Misek's truck, and the first time we saw it was at Jimmy Misek's sawmill. We were doing a show, Bob Van and I, back in 1994, and Rudy and his family really put their heart and soul into restoring that. And he told me, when I saw him last week in Chazy, that they took the transmission apart. He forgot to tell us this. It was made in Germany.
No, come on.
It was made in Germany. We talked today about
1937, before the war started, but things were pretty volatile. That was the year I was born. Wow.
Yep.
Made in Germany.
Yeah. So, you know, we don't think of that. Even back then, they were they were sending some of their work overseas.
That's amazing. Well, it was a labor of love, and it took them a long time to do it. They had to manufacture some of the parts themselves, but anybody who knows the Miseks knows that they're fully capable of doing whatever needs to be done. If they have to make a part, they can do that too. There's a little 36 Ford pickup over there, 2 years newer than the one I owned. And we're way down in the far corner. I'm telling you, there are cars everywhere you look here. New parts, old parts. For any of our viewers who love old cars, they might have been to the shows down in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, the biggest shows, some of the biggest shows in the world. You can buy cars in bushel baskets and parts if you want to and bring them home, or you can buy some beautifully restored vehicles as you like.
Just planning where you're going to stick everything must have been somebody's full-time job.
Oh, just unbelievable. It's just because it's fields and fields and fields and fields. Hi. The Mustangs and the Ford Fairlanes. High Performance 289. They're right there. Nice looking vehicle. That I'm not sure. That looks
64.
like. Yep. Looks original. Boy, here's one of the classics right here.
Yeah.
57 Ford Thunderbird. Yes, that's beautiful.
Whoop, I wanted to get the owner of
Holly Hill, Florida.
Come on, you did not. You made that up.
Holly Hill,
really?
Florida mayor 6 years ago. He and the car dedicated the new bridge from Holly Hill to Daytona Beach.
Is it? How did you find? First of all, I forgot your name.
Pete McAfee.
I knew that, Pete, and I just forgot. I'm sorry, I'm old. So how did you happen to find it?
A lady friend of mine knew he had one for sale. He was driving it every day to work, but I was able to talk. I literally stole it from him, researched the value thoroughly, offered him $28,000. He took it. In 6 years, I've put about $1,100 into the car. It's now worth $41,000.
Not enough to retire on, but it's not bad.
I'm never going to sell it. It's in my will to give to my niece's husband, who's worked for Bradenton, Florida Ford for years.
No kidding.
My lawyer said add one phrase. What's that? As long as he is still married to your niece.
Your mama didn't raise any
I've
fools,
told him that
Peter.
already. He's getting it, so it's going to keep the marriage together.
So what did you have to do on it after you bought it?
Just minor things. Minor.
No paint?
Nope. The mayor of Holly Hill bought it 8 or 10 years prior from another Florida owner who had bought it from the original Florida owner. No northern salt on the bottom whatsoever. The engine was in a crate. He put the engine back in the car, retooled it,
really?
new hoses, new lines, repainted the car. I've had to do nothing major to it.
How often do you drive it?
I go to 4 to 6 car shows every summer.
Oh, do you?
Just from May till September.
Yeah.
2 years ago I went to 4 car shows, won 4 trophies.
That's not hard to take.
No.
It is such a classic.
It is.
And that's the original color, too.
Yeah.
You gotta love it.
The year after I bought the car, I went to an antique store to look through their magazines. I wanted to find a 57 magazine, maybe an advertisement for the car. What did I find? The cover, Saturday Evening Post with a 57 blue bird.
And there it is, right on the front.
Route
You got
66,
lucky.
Yeah.
I bet you had to pay more than a dime for it, though, Pete.
That cost me 50 cents.
Oh, did it really? Life was tough. We're glad to see your car. Thanks so much for chatting with us, Peter.
Thank you.
Good luck. There are so many cars here at Egglefield Brothers Ford and Elizabethtown. There would be no way for us to spend more than 1 second in front of every one. Some of them are absolutely unique. Some of them have magnificent paint jobs. You see the old ones in the background, all the way back to the Model T, way in the back. The Model A, the 1940 Ford Cabriolet right here, just beautiful. And the cream color of the 1941 over to Calvin's right a little bit came from Vermont. That's a very, very special paint job. I like that one. Pretty car. I know what they look like inside. Boy, they've done a great job. All new running boards. Look at the new tonneau cover on the back of it. Boy, that's so cool. You have newer vehicles and older vehicles. Some of these have more power under the hood than you could get with 400 horses. Here's a look at this 1962 Ford unibody. John LaFond owns this one. I don't know where he's from, but I almost guarantee it didn't come that way from the factory. Here's a 55 T-Bird. It's, you know, you look at it now and you realize how very tiny they were when they first came out. And here's a 53. We talked about the F100 when it was first introduced. Some people have really neat license plate names and numbers, and some people use their regular plates. Look at this. That's a beautiful job. Chrome it up just a little bit, huh? What do you say? That's a 1940 Ford. Painted nice bright red. We made the circle and had a cup of water, and that was really good too. Do a little rap, shall we? All right. Yeah, we're just talking about this. What year was it? 1922.
22.
Oh, isn't that pretty with the white color and the nice pinstriping and wonderful detail with the wood spoke wheels, and you can put the top down and just cruise with your honey right down the road with a rumble seat in the back, and that's real pretty. It says the bride goes in the back. Yeah, I can understand that. Got a nice rear lamp on it. Yeah, this one has been lovingly restored. That's real beautiful. Here's the 1960 Ford. It's heavier than the old one, but this Sunliner was a real nice vehicle.
My parents used to own a 60 Ford hardtop though, but
oh, they did?
Powder blue.
Oh my!
And boy, that baby was long. You go to try to park it.
Oh, you can tell by looking at it. Yeah. And not too many side view mirrors here either back in those days. Oh, they got some more Fords that have been here since you and I came. Parked along the street with the hoods up.
It's on across the road too.
Oh my goodness, we got to go and look whatever we can before we wrap this up here today, because it's been so much fun. For those people just tuning us in, it's the 100th year in business for Egglefield Brothers right here in Elizabethtown, New York, in our wonderful North Country of New York State. It's a 1936 two-door slant-back sedan. Beautiful car owned by Sue and Dan McBride in Barre, Vermont. If you want to see what a flathead V8 Ford motor looks like, right there with the old two-barrel carburetor and a little air cleaner and generator. Just absolutely beautiful with the big wide white walls. Weren't they just great? They used to have a couple of those V8 hubcaps. They're getting to be a little valuable these days, but I think mine were pilfered along the way. It's kind of neat. Here's another Ford coupe right in front of us. These are all part of the early Ford Club of America. So they really did very well at getting these owners and their vehicles to show up here today. I don't remember that. Boy, that chrome grille is really nice. And even in 1936, there was a place for the crank in the front if you had one. I doubt if they did on this vehicle. That's so neat. Beautiful music in the background, people just having a good time, an air of excitement, especially among the folks at Egglefield Brothers Ford here in Elizabethtown today, because they've been given a lot of accolades, a lot of plaques and prizes and so on, and they've been giving back to the people who are here today with free food and free water and a lot of entertainment. And even though the crowd is thinning out a little bit in the afternoon, as we're almost 1 o'clock and we've been here since 11, there's still a wonderful crowd here. And if you haven't been to this little New York community in Essex County, you ought to come down here sometime. We have the best little communities in the world right here in northern New York State. We've always said it, and we'll contend that till the day we've died. It's and especially when the sun is shining, it's a perfect opportunity for people to stop by and meet friends and make new friends.
It's easy to see, Gordy, why this area here was originally known as Pleasant Valley. It's a very,
oh, it was really? I did not know that. Pleasant Valley. Here we go. Sounds like a made-up name in a book, doesn't it? Look at that. How about that? Hazelton Lumber Company. Look at, isn't that beautiful? Look at, here's our friends. Yeah, look at that beautiful hat she has on. They're gonna have, he said they're gonna do the awards at 3 o'clock. They're gonna have a scavenger hunt. They got a parade.
A parade here, I guess. There's something new.
Listen to this.
Join the parade. Find out the entrance where you see this in the show area here. Moving on parade. A lot of fun. Bring some folks with you if you can.
Look at the cars coming.
Don't want to drive? Get in with somebody else. Ask your friends if they can go with you.
Look at this face.
Thanks to the folks that participated in the first entry parade.
I love it when they take the old trucks. There's the fire department.
Southwicks.
Oh yeah, he's got the old klaxon.
Hope everybody's having a great time here today at Egglefield's 100th anniversary.
Steve's in there too.
Yep. I won't say it's more Fords than this town has ever seen, but I bet you it's pretty close. And I don't know how many Fords are in town today, but there are lots of them. As you heard us earlier, if you were watching our program, they tried to get one for every year, and then he told us they only lacked about 15 years of the last 100 years. Wait a minute, we got a ram in here. This must not be the parade.
Interloper.
No, interlopers. Yeah. Ha 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 ha.
Have a great time.
More Fords coming back.
Yeah, more Fords coming back, and another segment of the parade starting in just a few minutes. Every once in a while I spot a car that I hadn't seen before, and I love them.
I'm afraid when I get back, and Denny's going to see this DVD and say, but you missed this.
Yeah, way down back. He told us way down in the back road there are cars.
This one right here.
There are hot rods here. There's this
one interesting one here. Looks like a race car that Henry Ford might have been driving.
I don't know. Look at the 2 seats. Isn't that cool? Boy, I'll tell you. Here comes the parade. Oh, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? It sounded good. It's at least running on 2 of the cylinders anyway.
That was a 2-car parade.
That wasn't a very big parade.
Well, this used to be a 1-horse town, so it's a 2-car parade.
You talk about Pleasant Valley. This is Pleasant Valley here today, isn't it?
I know. We were heading across the road, but we
got waylaid when we saw down the dirt road. Then he said, well, look down back. We got some nice Mustangs. We got some good stuff down there in the back road. And so we turned the corner. Look at this, our kid. Look at this Ford Coupe hot rod. Boy, they've done a beautiful job on that too.
A little scary. You can't get out the windows in those things.
Oh yeah, there's the old fire department, fire truck. Isn't that neat?
Yeah. Every available nesting place, they've got a Ford down here.
They sure do, of all kinds. There aren't very many models and makes that aren't representative. So he got the shade after all, didn't they, huh? I don't blame you. No mosquitoes back there, huh?
Shazy a week ago.
Oh yeah.
That guy's getting ready to move over there.
Oh, okay.
We got some newer models. We got some older models. It was, I imagine it took them a little while to find places to park. No wonder they said they weren't sure where we were going to park when we came here, Calvin.
Yeah, that's besides all these excuse me, cars on exhibit. You've got all the people who are coming here need to park.
And they've been doing it too. Good. Look at this. Look at this.
Let's get out of the way.
Let's get out of his way. He's coming out, man. He's under full power. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Close the car.
Yeah. Don't you love it? Don't you love it? Look at way back in the woods here. Oh boy. Of course they have to blow the horn while they're underway. This is, I believe this is the Hale house down in here. It is. A lot of historical buildings in Elizabethtown. There are a few museums. Some are open, some are still closed. A lot of old trees. There's a nice Mustang. Told you we weren't able to show every car, but we're trying to show a few. Look at some nice ones on the lawn here. Wow, wait, look at this. When they said they spent 2 or 3 years putting this together, it's amazing. Look at the cars over yonder.
Those must be parking.
Parking for the people who came to see it.
Or that's their cars that they're trying to sell.
Well, maybe they just had to move them out for the occasion. Yeah, I never thought of that. Here's is that a Claire and Carl sandwich on there? Isn't that neat, huh?
It's a Toot and Tell 'em sandwich.
Oh yeah, that's right, Toot and Tell 'em. There's another one that hasn't been around for a long time. You think I haven't had some of their pie there at the Toot and Tell 'em over the years?
Yeah, Mischler's were known for their pie.
They sure were.
Andy's gone and Rita's down in Florida now.
Oh really? It's been a while. There's a nice 1929 convertible. Cars and cars and cars are parked everywhere.
More cars here parked in little parking lots along the side of the road.
It's just amazing. Every little nook and cranny and side road and side lawn and everywhere. We're just looking across the road where we started this morning before 11 o'clock. Egglefield Brothers celebrating 100 years in business here in the North Country, and you know, after 100 years you have to do something to make a splash. And believe me, they have organized this event to make a huge splash, including people coming from Michigan, from the Ford Company, to make presentations to them. Presentations of plaques and photographs of old race cars and a lot of stuff.
You know, Gordy, with the Egglefield business starting in New Russia, when we arrived here today, I thought of our old buddy Ozzie Sweet.
Oh my goodness, he lived there.
That's where he lived when he was growing up, and went to school here as a high schooler at Elizabethtown. But he took so many photos of so many classic cars over the years. It would have been great if you were in better shape to have gotten him involved with this, and I'm sure he could put out several calendars of classic Fords that he's taken pictures of over the years.
Might have had a few Fords and tractors too, you never know. He took a lot of pictures of tractors and a lot of calendars. That was some of the most fun we've had with our program is with our Ozzie Sweet, organizing some fabulous photographs at the Clinton County Fairgrounds. Just take a swing around and look at some of the cars here. Not all of them, but some of the cars, and get a general idea. It's hard to capture it all on camera, but it's been a neat event for us to attend and for you to see through our eyes. If you're looking at this now on your local cable system, bear in mind that you can tell your friends that it's on the internet at Plattsburgh.com and at HometownCableNetwork.com, and that you can make a contribution to the cause by sending a generous check to Calvin, Hometown Cable on the Ridge Road in Champlain. If you're an area business and you would like to have us come to your place of business to do a special commercial presentation or documentation, please do that. Look at this 24-hour towing, Egglefield Brothers. Isn't that neat? That baby's still running. I know it is.
Look at down the street. I can see an old car there. I can see a Mustang. They are everywhere.
Down yonder, they are everywhere.
All the way there, here to Lewis and back up to New Russia the other direction.
Well, when they said they were going to have some logistics problems, parking cars and people. Wow. The keys are in it. Shall I drive it home? Look at this. They got a picture of it inside. I don't know if I can grab it or not. Let me see. Hold on a minute. Can you see this? Isn't that cool? Could you use a cool one right about now? Boy, look at that. Isn't that Blatt's old-fashioned famous Milwaukee beer? You know, it's a good opportunity for us to say thank you for all of our viewers who have supported our program all these years. Thanks especially to people like these folks at Egglefield Brothers, the people whom we interviewed today, Dennis and Bud and the other family members. Several generations have been in business since 1910. They've obviously made a mark in this community by doing well, and that's true of all those people who've chosen to keep the family businesses going for generations after generations here in the North Country. Thanks to all the people, not only from Elizabethtown where they're holding this event, but people who knew about it and heard about it ahead of time and drove in their cars and bicycles and three-wheelers and motorcycles and velocipedes and baby carriages to get here, because if you missed it in person, that's your bad. Thank goodness Calvin decided to come down here and told me when we got back from our camping vacation at Coles Creek, how'd you like to go to E-Town on August 1st and go to Egglefield Brothers for their 100th celebration. See, that siren is probably for our benefit. I hope it's not anything bad going on in the community. Thanks to all of our viewers for your contributions, for your suggestions, for your long-time friendship. And who knows where we're going to be next time for our little corner.